Welcome, everyone. Episode 6 of the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast, and it is finally here. Week 1 in the NFL is upon us. Home opener, Hard Rock Stadium, Jaguars, Dolphins, two AFC teams really hoping to make waves, win divisions, and really do a lot this upcoming season. So a lot to kind of get to and unpack on this episode as we are ready. So this past week, we talked about the end of last week, extending Mike McDaniel. Yesterday, restructuring contract for cornerback Jalen Ramsey, who we're going to talk about based on his injury and what is in store for him for the game this week. But I'd say this on the contracts. They're all in. You know, you got to give Steve Ross a hell of a lot of credit. He's wanted a winner, and he's wanted a high-powered, energizing offense, electrifying, and let's face facts, he paid for a lot of garbage for a lot of years. He's a guy who's willing to spend money. You got to give him a ton of credit, what he's done with the stadium, what he's done with the things he's brought down to South Florida and Miami. I mean, that place and me going there for the last 17 plus years is a completely different animal. So he's all in. Now here's where it gets tricky, right? So everybody's been paid. McDaniel, Ramsey, Hill, Tua, Waddle. Everybody's been paid. Everybody has been given what they've wanted. We've heard about money in contracts for seems like forever, but probably a good 6-7 months. Everybody has been set up to succeed, and now the pressure is on because now there's no excuses. And if you know me as a legit, real deal Dolphin fan that's going to tell it like I see it and not going to sugarcoat it, it's put up or shut up time. There is no two ways around it. And as I'm going to kind of preview my prediction for the game that I'm going to get to at the end of the podcast, I'm not giving them a pass until they show me that they can win in big spots, because as great as it's been the last few years, the offense, the excitement, it's been the best, time to be a Dolphin fan. And, outside of the end of the Marino era in my lifetime by far, now it's time to see if they can put up or shut up and actually win big boy games and not just live in video game numbers. So a lot of pressure coming at them this coming week. And you got bam, week 1, week 2, 2 games in 5 days, home Jaguars, home Bills. This is going to be really telltale. Now, in doing statistical research in where they rank in games, 1 o'clock, South Florida, hot, I think McDaniel's like 9-1 in games over 80 degrees. Tua has a tremendous winning record, and they've done a hell of a job in those spots early on in the last, probably 3-4 years. But this game, it's a little odd to me. First of all, from an injury perspective, when the first injury reports came out, middle of the week, Wednesday, Dolphins had a bunch of guys on there, some with vet rests, some, guys coming back like Hill and Waddle who haven't really practiced much. Ramsey now has this hamstring, which anybody who knows hamstrings, they're very tricky. And, they just put out that they elevated Robbie Chosen because now Malik Washington, one of the 4 receivers on the depth chart, is now out. He got hurt in practice. So now they elevated Robbie Chosen, who was here last year, who was basically not here the entire offseason program. They signed him a couple weeks ago to the practice squad, basically because he knew the offense. He's now thrust in the mix. But what was interesting that I like, when you looked at the depth chart that they put out this week, they have what's called now an F position. The F position, maybe it's going to be the F them position or maybe the F us position, who knows. The F position, though, however, is basically, it's almost like a hybrid. So you got like Ingold in that mix, fullback. You have the tight ends in the mix. And the bottom line to me of what they're going to do is going to be heavy tight end, kind of tight end in lieu of receiver. Hopefully kind of lure the defense in. And I hope and pray they kind of start this out with the run game. I hope it's like early run game, tight end, to then open up for wideouts. That's my hope. Now, maybe in that mix, some slants, some things, two wideouts. Hill and Waddle obviously want to get him involved. But the hope in this game for me is that they can come out fast on offense, because I think that this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I think you're going to have some flying offenses, and I think that's going to really tell the tale of the day. The key, in my opinion, and we've said it before, how do these internal guards play? How do they hold up? Jaguars have some players on the line that are definitely going to wreak some havoc. They talked about it this week. Tua getting the ball out quick. They know they don't have like this dominant line. They talked about the fact that they get more athletic offensive linemen because their goal is obviously the second level of the defense and how they can utilize the speed by hitting the second level. But they don't have road graders on the line. They don't have guys that are just going to, basically barrel you over outside of your tackles. And then, of course, the X factor with Armstead. Is he healthy? When I look at the overall picture, here's one big worry for me. This is, quote unquote, the oldest team in the league. Now, it's a little skewed when you go down the top 8. You're talking, a couple of months type of a deal. So it is what it is. But you got a lot of guys north of 30, and you also have this, to me, you're getting like these differing opinions of like how hard the training camp was, right? So McDaniel comes out and says, hey, this is the hardest training camp we've had. Then you have other pundits in the NFL who have watched this training camp and others who say this has been more of like a learning and classroom training camp as opposed to a physical one, whereas other teams at the end of camps are running gassers and just really exerting themselves physically, and we're not. I understand it because I do understand the injuries, and I understand that this organization and McDaniel, they're definitely going to look at the big picture, and I think you should. If Ramsey, for instance, tomorrow is not ready to give it the full go, unfortunately, you got to hold him out, and obviously you have another game in 5 days. Based on the moves of the roster today, I think he probably will play. I think it's probably going to be a snap count situation, just like you're going to have with Jalen Phillips coming off the Achilles. Look, a little bit of Jalen Ramsey is better than no Jalen Ramsey at the end of the day, because there's certainly some drop-off in corner. You hope, and from a defensive standpoint, there's a couple of things that I'm looking to see. There's a couple of things I also think we're definitely going to see. I think the Jaguars are going to be smart, like most teams are, and they're going to come out and they're going to try and run it right down the throat of this revamped defensive line of where we've literally signed, no joke, it might be 25 guys that they've signed since Christian Wilkins left to try and find the right mix. You've had guys like Shaq Barrett retire. You've had guys, in and out get, Tier Tarkets cut. So you've had a lot of, hey, we're trying to patch it with a lot of bodies. So all that says to me is there's not going to be continuity at defensive tackle right up the middle. And if I'm a team, I am testing that. Because to me, if you test that and you've passed the test and you can run the ball, forget it. You're going to open things up. They're going to have to be creeping guys in like Holland to try and stop the run. And that's my worry of not only the defense for this year, but particularly this game. Trevor Lawrence, look, he's not had kind of the breakout season. He's had some breakout performances, obviously in the playoffs a couple years ago. And, look, he's a player. I think probably this year you'll probably look back and say, hey, this is probably the year that he had a breakout party, right? Because he has the tools. Can he put it together? Last year the Jaguars were 8-3 and they fell apart because of injuries. But healthy, and if you look at the injury report for the week, they've had basically nobody on it. So they're coming at you full bore. I also think coaching is going to be a factor. Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning coach, played for the Dolphins, Eagles coach, came here, really turned this franchise around in the last couple of years, and he basically had a bottomed out team that he got 2 years ago. He's done a pretty good job winning 9 games a couple times. So it's going to be a tall order. You're hoping, my hope is the heat, because of the game, it's extremely hot down here. We have the advantage with the way the stadium's obviously set up. This is also a Florida team, though. Now it's Jacksonville, not as hot as here. Hopefully that's a factor, and we can wear them down a little bit. But you'd feel a lot better if you were playing, a cold weather team down here, like a New England or a Buffalo, like you have the last couple of years. But the thing for me is McDaniel, right? Everybody talks about Mike McDaniel, offensive genius, creator, great with people, players, connection, and I think all those things are true. And I think I'm glad he's my coach, and I think he's trying to, kind of get himself into the role, right? He's trying to make the right decisions of mistakes he's made. But again, he was a rookie coach 2 years ago. The worry would be, can he outcoach a Super Bowl coach? Now, he's done it before. He's learned from mistakes in certain games. But can he get over his in-game management issues that he's had, particularly against a Super Bowl winning coach? That's going to be very, very interesting to me. I'm also going to go over to the special teams because the fact that we still have our coordinator, and I guess I should shut up about it, it baffles me. But now you have this new kickoff. You saw in some of these games the last couple nights, I think there was only like 8 of 24 kicks returned. You saw some strategies of trying to kick it to the 20 to try and get you more of that, kind of pin them in that 20 area and then go in for the kill. So, hey, maybe you get them starting at the 20 or 25 as opposed to the 35. I don't know if that's what I want to see. Because of the bunch up and because of the speed of a lot of these returners, you can really break one wall fairly easily, whereas before you had kind of that safety help of, the back end guys and then the kicker. You don't have that. So hopefully we just say, hey, the hell with it. Let's just kick it deep and, live to fight another day, give them the ball and play some defense. So defensively, if we can commit, number one, to stopping the run, and if we can see if, Chop Robinson can close in on setting the edge, which I'm very concerned about because it's not necessarily his forte as a rookie, and you're going to ask a lot of this guy, you're going to probably get ran on. I will be very surprised if the Jaguars do not run on them pretty significantly. I just will. Just because I think they're going to see it, that they can exploit it. Hopefully, and again, Ramsey's a big X factor, you can make up for that from a secondary perspective and kind of shut down the passing game. And again, that fast start from the offense is really going to be paramount because I think this is going to be one of those back and forth, very similar to last year's Charger game. You had 2 dueling quarterbacks. It's week 1, and the defenses were definitely not there yet. And it's interesting with the way camps are. Less physicality. I do think a lot of times like the defense has to catch up because you haven't hit anybody, and then all of a sudden you got to hit somebody. So now I think that's going to play a factor in the game as well from this kind of dueling back and forth. But hopefully we can get ourselves kind of that fast start, get ahead, and then try and settle in defensively. If they start playing this game from behind, I think you can go, round for round. I just don't know if the round for round will lean itself from a defensive perspective to where you're going to stop them. So that's going to be very, very key to me in this game. Okay, now let's get to prediction time. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I do want to say this. Let me give a shout out to everybody who voted for me for the Miami Dolphins NFL Fan of the Year. I appreciate it. If you haven't, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And please hit likes and subscribe because I do this labor of love, trying to grow the channel, trying to, get ourselves out there, and who knows where it'll go. But for right now, it's just fun, and it's talking about something I love. But I want to thank everybody who's done that. But now, prediction time. Who's going to win week 1 in the league where they play for pay? So, Jaguars, Dolphins. Dolphins favored 3.5. Over under is 49. Me, as not the Homer Dolphin fan, thinks, like I said, we're going to have a duel. We're going to have a back and forth battle. Tua, Trevor Lawrence. Offense is going to be ahead of defense. It's going to be hot. Guys are going to be flying around. Lots of points. absolutely I'm taking the over for sure. I think they're definitely going to blow by 49. Now, for the winner in the game and the score, I truly feel the Jaguars are going to win this game very, very close. I think it's going to be a 30-27 Jaguars. Now, I could definitely see that happening on the other end because there's this back and forth in my head about we're home, week 1, amped up stadium, the heat. I think that will play a factor, but I do not trust yet, and they have to earn my trust because they lost it last year. I do not trust a new defense, a very weak interior defensive line, in my opinion, and a very weak interior guard situation. I think you're going to get a shootout like you did last year with the Chargers, but I think the problem is going to end on the wrong end of it. Let's hope I'm wrong. Let's go Fins. Let's hope I can say and eat my words next week that the Dolphins won 30-27 or even more. But I'm going to sit there and say the Dolphins will cover on the half with the 3.5, but I think Jaguars ultimately win this game. Let's pray I'm wrong. I like when I'm wrong on these predictions, but I got to keep it real. So we'll see you, Hard Rock Stadium, 1 o'clock. Let's go Fins. See you next week.